All right, it's showtime. Hi, folks. As you know, our topic today is understanding advanced retirement planning. And we couldn't be more excited to be addressing this topic with you again because we believe that more people should know and understand better what some of the most important things to plan for in retirement are and why most financial planners lean on certain solutions to address most of them. To me, this is extremely important because it's been my suspicion for quite a while that sometimes when we've recommended certain strategies and products as solutions to either mitigate taxes or protect from potential financial losses, it sometimes feels a little like some of our clients and prospective clients don't clearly understand why we're making these recommendations and thus may think that we're just trying to peddle financial products or that we're being overly zealous so that we can make more money. Hold on a second, folks. I think I gotta change something. I think my pictures. Who wants to chat back to me if they can hear me? Can you hear me out there? I know my picture's frozen. So let me just do one thing. I got to jump out of this for a second. I think I know what's causing this. Yep, I knew it. Hold on. Little bit of technical difficulty here, but it's all right. We'll get by it. Almost there. My Wi-Fi switched from my 5.0 to my to my 2.5 or whatever it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties here. You guys can see my cool Eagles background now. I can see that. Let's get this bad boy going again. Almost there. All right, we're back. So to me, this is extremely important because it has been my suspicion for quite a while that sometimes when we've recommended certain strategies and products as solutions to either mitigate taxes or protect from potential financial losses, it sometimes feels a little like some of our clients and prospective clients don't clearly understand why we're making these recommendations and thus may think that we're just trying to peddle financial products or that we're being overly zealous so that we can make more money. When the truth is, or should be, that even though sometimes we do make more money as a result of implementing some of the strategies that we recommend, whenever we make recommendations to a client, there should be a demonstrable before and after outcome that clearly shows at least a potential better result for the client if and when the strategy is actually implemented. Can you guys hear me? Can you type into the chat or the Q&A if you can hear me? Okay, my picture's frozen up and I'm sorry about that, but I got on the right internet speed, so I'm doing the best I can here. Okay, so it's our goal today to first break down some of the basic elements that all retirement plans are made up of. Then secondly, to discuss some of the possible pitfalls that can either A, cause less than optimal outcomes for your plan, or B, completely blow it out of the water, or at least derail it a good bit. And then to show you the impact that certain financial strategies and products can sometimes have to assist in avoiding these types of adverse situations. We're going to look at the before and after effects of things like changing the account harvesting choices, which is just a fancy way of saying what happens when you change the order in which you spend money from each of your different accounts that you have. We're going to look at Roth conversions, the impact of a cut in Social Security income, because at this time, that's actually definitely going to happen sometime between 2033 and 2035 if Congress doesn't do something before then to stop it. We're also going to look at the effects of the early death of a spouse, and finally, the occurrence of a long-term care event or events, because it could be a reality that both spouses in some cases could find themselves in need of long-term care services actually at the same time. Now, our approach for this today will be very much in black and white, meaning that we're just going to look at how much a person's assets / estate would be worth at the time of their death if and when these recommended strategies were actually implemented or not. Also, we're not going to get too complicated with this. We are only really going to be comparing one type of solution, mainly the ones that we prefer at our firm, to the alternative of not implementing it. So, of course, we know that there are always 9 ways to skin a cat. And when it comes to choosing different strategies and solutions to improve things on your plan, there's always different ways to do it, meaning that there are other products or approaches that could yield similar or maybe even better results than we're showing you, but that we just may not be privy to them at the moment. This has certainly happened before and will probably happen again. That being said, the reason for our comparison today is not for us to promote our favorite strategies and solutions. It's purely for conceptual purposes alone. So that you can experience the thought processes that we go through when making such recommendations. Okay, now that you guys have a clear understanding of what we're going to be covering today, before we jump into it, I'd first like to thank each of you for joining us today to discuss this extremely important topic. My name is Brian Dougherty of PLC Financial Solutions. I'm your host, as always, but unfortunately, my beautiful, wonderful partner in business and life, Rachel Dougherty, cannot be with us today due to prior business commitments. So, unfortunately, you're stuck with just me today because I will also be the moderator for it as well, meaning that I will also be handling all the comments and questions as we move along. But before we get started, let's take care of some general housekeeping first, as always. First, if the screen is not big enough for you to read, you can click on the View Options drop down at the top right of your screen to make it larger. Also, you'll see that there are 2 boxes at the bottom of your screen. One's called Chat, it's for your comments, and the other's called Q&A for your questions. Please use them accordingly, and I will respond to them in kind when I have a chance. Next, I'm sure that many of you guys will have questions about the material as we go along. However, since we have a good bit to cover and only an hour to cover it, I'm going to ask you to put your comments and questions in those boxes below, or you can email them to me at info@plcfs.com if that's easier for you to do. And at the end, we'll be staying for some extra time to cover as many of them as possible. However, if we don't cover yours, we'd be happy to answer it by either email or even a 15-minute Q&A phone call scheduled for another time. I will be posting a link for that for you to schedule that by the end of the workshop. Next thing, this webinar is being recorded and it will be sent to everyone who is attending tonight. So don't worry about missing anything. You'll have plenty of time to check it out again at your convenience. Just want to check on something, by the way. Okay. All right, just making sure it was actually being recorded with all those other problems. All right. Also, because we want to make sure that you're all paying attention and because we'd like you to have some fun as well, before we answer your questions, we have a 6-question quiz for you at the end. And the first person to answer each question correctly inside the comment box will win a $10 gift card to a store of your choice. So make sure you have a notebook handy to jot down some brief notes related to some special bullet points. Now I want you to know I'm putting up my my fingers on that. Just want to try one thing now. I'm going to go out of this and back in just for a second. Ah, look at that. I'm back. Nice. I said bullet points. Remember that. So keep those notebooks handy. Finally, it's my obligation as a financial advisor and a fiduciary to inform you of our RIA's disclaimer statement, which is that our investment advisory services are offered through Fusion Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisor, and we only transact business in states where we are properly registered or are excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Also, SEC registration is not an endorsement of our firm by the commission and does not mean that our advisors have attained a specific level of skill or ability. And most importantly, all investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. So now that we got that out of the way, I have one for you, as always. What kind of exercise do lazy people do? Diddly squats. Oh, I got that. I actually looked that one up myself, but I probably should have got one from the kids, right? All right, so keep my day job. So let's get started. So to start with the basics, let's first discuss some of the different retirement vehicles that are available to us to use as part of our retirement plans. Fortunately, there are a number of different strategies, tools to choose from when planning for retirement. For the purpose of this workshop, we're going to focus on the most common ones as it relates to both investments and insurance as we move forward. Things such as a tax deferral or retirement savings, tax-free retirement income, employer contributions, and life insurance and long-term care, to name a few. Let's start by discussing some of the different types of savings accounts that our government has made available to us when saving specifically for retirement. The first are tax-deferred savings accounts, which are registered with the government and provide deferral of tax obligations. This means taxes won't be due on this money until you withdraw it from the account. These are great if you think you're going to be in a lower tax bracket during retirement. If so, by saving in this type of traditional retirement account, you'll definitely be able to reduce your lifetime tax bill for sure. The most common tax-deferred savings accounts that we see today are the traditional IRA and the traditional 401k. We'll talk briefly about the differences between them in just a moment, but let's first talk about some of the similar rules related to them. For a 401k, and I didn't even update these for 2023 yet. I need to do that. For 401k in 2022, a person under the age of 50 can contribute up to $20,500. I'm sure it's a little bit more than that now. And for age 50 and over, the limit was $27,000, which is an extra $6,500 for what is called the catch-up amount. Also, you must be able to legally work in order to contribute to a 401k, which means that in the US, since you can't legally work until you're age 14, then 14 is when you can start contributing to one. However, employers aren't required to offer an employee a 401k until they reach the age of 21. Now, for an IRA, the contribution limit is for someone age 50 and under is $6,000 and $7,000 if you're age 50 and over. Furthermore, there are no age limits to open an IRA, except when it comes to a simplified employer pension, otherwise known as a SEP, SEP IRA. Then you need to be age 21 to open a SEP. However, there are two main disclaimers when it comes to qualifying to opening any type of IRA. The first is that you must be working in order to contribute to one. And the second is that you can't contribute more than what you make. So if a teenager has a part-time gig making $5,000 a year, then $5,000 is all they can contribute. Their parents couldn't spot them another 1K in order for them to get up to the $6,000 limit for people under age 50. So with all that being said, the overall benefits of pursuing the tax-deferred route include tax-free growth on your savings and usually, but not always, less taxable income at the time of withdrawal. Now, IRAs and 401ks are the most common investment vehicles for planning and saving for retirement. However, there are others that work very much the same, but are utilized with certain types of situations and companies. IRA alternatives, they are. And bullet point, this is bullet point number 1. Get those notebooks out. A SEP IRA, which like I said, stands for a Simplified Employee Pension Plan, and a Simple IRA, which stands for Savings Incentive Match Plan for Employees, are the alternatives for traditional IRAs. And they are for individuals who either own their own small businesses, like a sole proprietor or a small partnership or an LLC, or do some type of freelance work where they earn money outside of an employment situation. They have been created so that individuals who are in business for themselves in some capacity can easily create retirement accounts for themselves and even some employees without the hassle of dealing with more government regulations or having to hire a third-party administrator, otherwise known as a TPA, to oversee the plan for them. Also, these types of IRA accounts can still be funded with pre-tax money and allow individuals to enjoy all the same benefits as traditional IRAs, but they do have higher contribution limits. In 2022, SEP IRAs allowed the lower of $61,000 or 25% of your adjustable gross income. However, They also require that the small business owner contribute the same for each employee as they do for themselves. And catch-up contributions are not permitted in them. Now, when it comes to simple IRAs, in 2022, contribution limits were $14,000 for people under age 50 and $17,000 for those over. Now, 401k alternatives, what's known as a 403b and 457b plans. They're both tax-deferred employer-sponsored retirement plans like the 401k, but they are utilized with only certain types of businesses. They're typically offered to employees of private nonprofits and government workers, including public school employees, firefighters, police officers, etc. And they function very much the same as a 401k plan as well, because they too are defined contribution plans that allow participants to shelter money on a tax-deferred basis for retirement. The one major difference between the two is that 403b plans are considered qualified plans, because just like 401k plans, they are governed by the Department of Labor under the ERISA rules, and 457b plans are considered non-qualified plans because they are overseen by the IRS, just like IRAs are. What is also great about many of these types of plans is that they allow for employers to offer voluntarily a certain percentage of an employee's gross salary as an employer contribution to the account. And in many cases, it is done on a matching basis, where the employer will match whatever amount the employee contributes up to a certain defined point. For example, an employer may offer a match up to 5% of your salary. This means if you contribute at least 5%, they will match it. Again, contributions are made on a pre-tax basis, and for a 403b, an employee, if under age 50, is allowed to contribute. In 2021, it was at $19,500 per year. 2022 was $20,500 for the year. And 50 and over at 2021, it was $26,000. 2022, it was $27,000. It's probably $28,000 now. I have to look that up. I'm going to update this presentation for the next time. There are also other catch-up provisions that can total between employer and employees as much as $58,000 in 2021 and $61,000 in 22. And for a 457b, contributions for both 2021 and 22 are the same as the 403b contributions, except that when in the last 3 years of employment, catch-up contributions can be as high as $39,000 in 2022. So now let's take a look at a Roth IRA. Now, there is another type of retirement account that works opposite to the traditional accounts that we just spoke of, and it's called the Roth retirement account. Bullet point, second bullet point. I'm putting those quotes up. Take out that booklet, write this stuff down. Roth accounts, whether they are IRA based or 401k, 403b, or 57b based, they all have Roth type. They all have a Roth version. Are all what's called tax-free retirement accounts, and thus, like I said, work the opposite of tax-deferred accounts like traditional IRAs or 401ks, because the growth on the invested assets will be tax-free when it's withdrawn from the account. Some of the other stipulations related to Roth accounts are this. One, they must be funded with after-tax dollars. which is the reason why they are allowed to grow tax-free and later be withdrawn tax-free. Also, they must be open for at least 5 years before the growth in the account can be withdrawn tax-free. If the growth is withdrawn before it becomes, before that, it all becomes taxable. Plus, in order to not incur a 10% penalty by the government, a Roth account owner cannot withdraw the account before age 59 and a half. Now, the major difference between Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks, 403bs, and 457s are Roth IRAs actually have income limits, ranges related to who qualifies to contribute to them and how much they can contribute. And Roth 401ks, 403bs, and 457bs do not have income limits. So in 2022, a Roth IRA income limit range, because it phases out gradually, starts at $129,000 and ends at $144,000 for a single person, and starts at $204,000 and ends at $214,000 for a married couple. However, when it comes to the contribution limits for both traditional and Roth accounts, they are all still the same. Roth IRAs are never subject to required minimum distributions either, otherwise known as RMDs, and Roth 401ks, 403bs, and 457bs, they are. This is why we always advise clients with the latter to roll them into Roth IRAs before they turn age 72, which is now when RMDs are mandated by the government. So as you can see, all Roth-based accounts are desirable because you can withdraw contributions penalty-free and tax-free at any time. It's only the interest that can be penalized for early withdrawals. Now, let's talk about life insurance. Switching gears a little bit here. Keep trying to get this video going, folks. Now, there are several types of life insurance policies that are applicable to different situations. In fact, to some people, the difference between them are sometimes actually controversial. Some advisors strictly believe in by-term life insurance and investing the difference of the cost it would have been to purchase a cash value-based policy into a market-based investment like a mutual fund or an ETF, or even a portfolio of different individual stocks. They say that by doing this, you can maximize the amount of insurance you can buy today and how much your investments can grow over time. However, it's been my experience that there are valid times to purchase each type of life insurance that exists out there today, especially because of the tax advantages that cash value-based life insurance offer that really no other type of investments do. You just need to know when the right time to invest into each type is. So when it comes to the three, the main types of life insurance, I classify them as into three types. Third bullet point, putting them fingers up, get them notebooks out. Third bullet point. The first is cash value-based life insurance, also known as whole life insurance, which is any type of life insurance that saves cash inside of it that can accrue interest and potentially last for your entire life. The second is term life insurance, which is any type of life insurance that is just purely life insurance with no cash value inside of it and will only be enforced for a defined period of time. And the third is what I call a hybrid life insurance that is actually a stripped out form of cash value life insurance, which provides pretty much just the life insurance for your entire life, but keeps only enough cash in it to keep the policy from lapsing. So it's like having term life insurance, a term life insurance policy when it comes to how much it costs, although it's actually costs about 50% more than term, but is much cheaper than whole life. And it lasts for the rest of your life when term insurance does not. However, I must mention that I am obligated as a fiduciary to mention that even though a contract between an insurer and an insured states that it will cover you for the rest of your life, that is, of course, based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. So you definitely want to do your homework and make sure that you go with a company that has a strong rating with either AM Best or Standard & Poor's, who are the two most reputable ratings companies out there today. So when it comes to these types of life insurance, each of them can play an integral part in the success of a retirement plan at different times. For instance, sometimes to protect a dependent surviving spouse from the loss of the lower Social Security income, it makes sense to use the hybrid coverage to purchase just enough life insurance to replace that lower Social Security income with assets that can last for at least the last 10 or 15 years of your life. Or when a couple is young and would like to create a flexible plan that can be used for multiple purposes to assist with both college tuition and a source of tax-free retirement, as well as tax-free death benefits to their heirs, then I personally prefer indexed universal life insurance because it has the ability to receive a potentially higher internal rate of return over a family's lifetime than a whole life policy, and more of a premium goes towards the savings part of the plan as well. Although I also think that a 20 or 30-year term life policy placed on the parents simultaneously, in order for them to have enough life insurance in those early years to replace both of their incomes in case of a sudden early death, is a good idea as well. Just a few bullet points when it comes to what make life cash value life insurance attractive as an estate planning and savings vehicle. What the heck happened there? Got through our bullet points. Man, having all kinds of problems today. So the first, it can be purchased as a way to accumulate savings into a non-correlated asset class, meaning that the returns inside of it do not always correlate directly with the equities and bond markets, and that certain life insurance policies provide the opportunity to accrue retirement savings and guarantees that are not contingent on stock market returns. Also, for retirement, estate, and tax planning purposes, here are some key advantages that it provides. One, there are no income restrictions required to qualify for it. Two, it has tax-deferred cash value accrual. Three, it can provide tax-free withdrawals or loans. Income from it is not included in the Social Security taxation equation. 5, it is protected from pre-bankruptcy asset evaluations, lawsuit losses, and liens from creditors in many states, depending on the state laws. 6, withdrawals can be made prior to age 59 and a half without being subject to an IRS penalty. And finally, the death benefit is tax-free for beneficiaries. So you can see that with all these special characteristics, why so many financial planners find life insurance to be a very important part of many of their clients' plans. Okay, let's briefly discuss annuities and how they can fit into a comprehensive retirement plan. Again, just like life insurance, there are several different annuities that have been created to fill certain needs. Okay, guys. 4th bullet point. Take the notebooks out. The most commonly used annuities today are fixed annuities, also known as FAs, fixed indexed annuities, also known as FIAs, and variable annuities, also known as VAs. Keep them. Make sure you got those notes on that. Furthermore, all 3 of these types of annuities can also be classified in 2 more ways, which are immediate annuities or deferred annuities, depending on the customer's needs. What's more, there are also many types of riders that can be added to these annuities in order to add certain types of benefits to them as well. Some of the most common riders are a lifetime income benefit rider, a liquidity rider, an indexing strategy rider, a death benefit rider, and a long-term care rider. But there are many more types of riders that are just less commonly used, and we actually talk about them in our Annuities One-on-One webinar. You can look that up on our YouTube or check it out the next time we do it. Again, just like with life insurance, there is also much debate and some controversy as well on when and if all these types of annuities actually have a place in a client's retirement plan or not. All I can say on that is that I have found that each has its niche to fill in certain situations if you can identify when exactly to use it. However, it has also been my experience that some annuities are more commonly used today than others because they fill a need that is common with many of the clients that we sit down with. For instance, it is very common for even people with healthy retirement savings to have only Social Security for a lifetime guaranteed income source, and for it to leave a gap between how much their Social Security is and how much their monthly fixed expenses are. In this case, it is very common to add either a fixed immediate annuity or a fixed indexed annuity with a lifetime income benefit rider on it that will fill the income gap between a client's Social Security income and their fixed monthly expenses. Plus, even though the fixed immediate annuity will usually always provide a higher monthly income dollar for dollar to the client, the investment itself is irrevocable. So once it's made, you can never get your money back, even in cases of emergency. This is why many people just shop for the FIA, fixed index annuity, that will provide them with the highest monthly income and are willing to invest a little more to fill that income gap and still be in the position to get their money back in case of an emergency. Another attractive feature to FIAs is that if the insured passes away early, their beneficiaries will receive whatever money they did not use, plus the return that is earned on it. With a fixed annuity, beneficiaries may or may not receive any death benefit. It depends on how they're set up. Now, another common use of annuities these days is as a bond alternative, because bond yields have been at such all-time lows prior to this year for so long that it had made sense to start implementing certain types of annuities for investment purposes only. It's been mostly fixed indexed annuities that have filled this niche and that have been performing better over most of the bonds, or the bonds out in today's market climate prior to this year. Finally, although there certainly are different types of clients that variable annuities can work for, in my opinion, since they're the only type of annuity where the principal is not protected, these make the most sense for either a younger person that has plenty of time to deal with the ups and downs of the market, or for a very wealthy client that is looking for another tax-deferred source once they've maxed out all of their other IRA and qualified options, and who may also like the idea of at some later date of annuitizing it to stretch out their tax burden over their lifetime, because they would only be paying taxes on the growth part of each payment they get. Folks, there is a ton more that we could discuss as it relates to annuities, and we will be taking a deeper dive into them next time we do our Annuities 101 webinar. But I think that we covered enough for today for you to at least have an idea why they should be at least considered for many retirement plans, to see if they can improve the plan in one way or another. Okay. Now, the last major type of solution that most financial advisors usually consider for their clients' retirement plans is for the potential need for long-term care services at some point in their life. They do this because someone who is 65 today has a 70% chance of needing some type of long-term care services and support in their remaining years. And the median cost for a semi-private nursing home room in the US today is $93,075 per year, and a private room is $105,850 a year. On top of that, the latest retiree health cost estimate from Fidelity Benefits Consulting estimates that a 65-year-old couple retiring this year will need an average of $275,000 in today's dollars to cover medical expenses throughout retirement. So, to say the least, a potential long-term care event in a person's life can absolutely have an adverse effect on their retirement plan, and certainly should be given some serious consideration. Okay, fifth bullet point, get those notebooks out. So when it comes to long-term care insurance, there are basically two main types that people have to choose from. And that is traditional long-term care insurance and asset-based long-term care insurance. Traditional long-term care insurance and asset-based long-term care insurance. Now, the first one, traditional long-term care insurance, this type is always based on the customer paying a periodic premium throughout the year. Then, if they find themselves at some point not being able to perform one of their own perform on their own two of the six major activities of daily living, or ADLs as they're called, are most commonly referred to, which are bathing, eating, dressing, toileting, transferring, and continence. Then, with a letter of confirmation from a doctor, the insurer will pay on a reimbursement basis for whatever care is needed up to the allowable limits of the policy. However, if the customer is never in need of these types of long-term care services, then their policies will end at the time of their death, with the customer and their heirs never receiving anything back for what they paid out during their lifetime. Although, if they do find themselves in need of long-term care services, with this type of long-term care insurance coverage, it will usually cover things like driving, medication, management, home health care, respite services, hospice care, adult daycare, and even extended stays in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Now, like I said,
Here's what I found.
the second type of long-term care insurance that is available to folks is called, and this is actually our sixth and final bullet point. Get those notebooks out. The second type of long-term care insurance is called asset-based long-term care insurance. Although this type of long-term care coverage can also be attained through paying monthly premiums to the age of 95, it is most commonly purchased with either a single lump sum payment or annual payments over 5, 10, or 20 years. I'm going to repeat that bullet point. It is most commonly purchased with either a single lump sum payment or annual payments over 5, 10, or 20 years. And these payments cover the customer's premium for the rest of their life. It too is triggered by the customer not being able to perform on their own two of the six major activities of daily living that I mentioned before, and with a letter of confirmation from a doctor before the insurer will begin to pay on a reimbursement basis for whatever care is needed up to the allowable limits of the policy. It is worth mentioning that usually it can be arranged for the insurers, with the insurers, to pay the services provided directly for their services as well. They actually have, some of the insurers actually have departments that will, instead of the customer paying for the service and then getting the money from the insurance company, they will actually pay it directly to the providers instead. And they still consider that a reimbursement basis because they're performing the duties first. Now, this asset-based long-term care coverage is usually a hybrid combination of both long-term care coverage and either life insurance or an annuity, depending on which the customer qualifies for from a health perspective. The long-term care life insurance type usually requires a full medical exam and proof of insurability, when the long-term care annuity type does have to pass through underwriting, but requires much less proof of insurability and basically just looks to make sure that the customer can presently perform all the major six activities of daily living. Now, what many people like about these types of hybrid asset-based long-term care coverage is, one, they can provide a bona fide long-term care coverage that can be purchased in one lump sum, and if it is not used, then their beneficiaries can receive their assets back in the form of a tax-free death benefit when they would have to had paid taxes on the assets otherwise. Secondly, The long-term care benefit from them, as well as those from traditional long-term care policies, are all paid out tax-free too. On the other hand, had they paid for these long-term care services directly from their tax-deferred and taxable accounts, they would have to pay taxes at either the income or capital gains level for them. Finally, some insurers that offer these hybrid policies have payout options that will pay out benefits for the customer's entire lifetime, which is a great form of protection for all their other assets in case their longevity works against them from a financial point of view. So, with these two types of long-term care policies available today, most financial planners will look to implement at least one in order to protect their clients from the devastation of a potential catastrophic long-term care event that could derail their whole retirement plan, which they worked hard their entire life for. Although there are many more things to know about both long-term care insurance as well as all the other major strategies and solutions that most financial advisors at least consider when developing an advanced retirement plan, I hope that we have discussed enough about them for you to now have a basic understanding and awareness of them and their purposes. With that said, let's now take a look at some before and after scenarios that most financial advisors will explore when creating and developing an advanced retirement plan. Now, when a financial advisor has all the details of a client's current financial situation in hand, it is referred to as our base case. It is then, when developing a plan, that many times most advisors will introduce various types of financial strategies and solutions in order to see if they can improve the overall performance of the plan. When we do that, we refer to the outcomes related to it as the plan case. Also, in order to do this in a more time efficient and accurate way, most financial advisors today do so with the assistance of various types of financial planning software systems. There are many of them to choose from. I myself, over the years, have worked with at least a dozen of them or more. 2 or 3 for building out full retirement plans, and various other supporting software to develop facts and figures for the overall plan. It's used to create things like Social Security maximization, tax mitigation, and investment portfolio reports that generate certain figures from them to be entered into the retirement planning software for the overall plan. So, for this workshop today, I've chosen a retirement planning software that will allow us to isolate on some of the very specific strategies and solutions that we covered today in our workshop in order to demonstrate to you live the before and after effects that each particular isolated strategy or solution will have on the base case, thus creating some base case versus plan case scenarios. I thought that this way of doing it would be the easiest way to demonstrate to all of our attendees today some of the how, what, and whys of building an advanced retirement plan. Although today's webinar is really only focusing deeply on the black and white financial impact of the most common elements of a retirement plan. It does not address the impact of any serious estate or advanced tax planning as it relates to how one positions themselves to take advantage of certain IRS rules and regulations or any advanced business entity planning that can be helpful as well. So this is by no means the only value that a good financial planner might bring to the table. Now, when a financial advisor has all the details of a client's current financial situation in hand, Like I said, it's referred to the base case. It is then when developing a plan that many times most advisors will introduce various types of financial strategies and solutions in order to see if they can improve the overall performance of the plan. When we do that, we refer to the outcomes related to them, as I said, to the plan case. Also, in order to do this in a more time efficient and accurate way, sorry, folks. I'm going to jump to the next one. We covered most of that in that other one already. So before we jump into our software, into what our software is telling us about the base case, let me first give you a little background of what information about our clients was entered into our software. The basic information that this software requires is the client's names, date of birth, estimated date of death. I usually use 82 for men and 85 for women, which is actually a little longer than U.S. government averages. The current U.S. government averages are 76.3 years for men and 81.4 for women, according to the National Center for Health Statistics. But in this situation, you want to make sure that you have enough if you live longer than expected. Then we enter qualified assets, taxable assets, income needed, which is another way of saying expenses, pensions, Social Security amounts, debts, and finally, what the assumptions will be related to for inflation, investment discount rates, and state and federal income effective tax rates. Once all this is entered, then you push the run button and it will show you this screen here. You can see three categories on the very left that say need, base case, and plan. To the right of them are four columns that have headings that say portfolio longevity, which is referring to the number of years until the spouse with the longer life expectancy dies. Income floor, which is referring to one, how much their average income need will be throughout their life expectancy, which you can see is $85,284. And two, what percentages of that need will be met during that time period, which you can see is 100% for both the base and the plan case. However, the way this software works is that the base case and the plan case will be the same until either a stress test, which are located in column 4, where there are 7 little buttons with different little icons on them that are related to the types of stress that is being applied to the base case. Plus, as a side note, these stressors can only be applied one button at a time. So unfortunately, this particular software, you can't add multiple stressors at a time. Finally, the estate value, which is in column 3 and currently showing as $531,563, is what we are solving for when we apply both the stressors and the various potential solutions, which I will show you and how they're applied in a minute. So let's first see if the base case has enough assets in it to succeed in getting Bob and Jane through retirement, even if we didn't make any changes, in which is just another way of checking to see if they have enough money saved in general. And if we can clearly see that they do, because the income floor says that it will satisfy 100% of the time. Just getting a little water here, folks. Okay. So put the base case in, and it's showing, without any stressors or anything, that the income floor will be satisfied 100% of the time for the base and the plan case. But we haven't added any stressors to it yet. This basically means that they could make it through retirement without any help as long as there aren't any major stressors that would cause them to have to spend at a higher rate than they are and thus cause their assets to deplete sooner. This brings us to the exact reason why we as financial advisors perform the exercises that I am about to show you on our clients and prospective clients' current retirement plans. So we can see if their current plans under various possible stressful circumstances can make it or not. And if not, can implementing some of the strategies and solutions that we talked about earlier help them to either mitigate these stressors or maybe even improve their estate growth when it's all said and done? All right. So now that you understand what's going on here, let's start having some fun with this. All right. Now, generally, the first thing we look at is whether the investment portfolio risk level matches the risk tolerance level of not just the clients, but also their situation, which in this case seems to be too conservative because the client started with $1 million and multiple guaranteed income sources that exceeded their monthly fixed income needs by over $5,000. Yet their estate size reduced from over $1 million to just over $500,000 by the end of their life expectancy. This can happen inside planning software, even without actually spending any additional money over the fixed needs because of the internal inflation rate that is being applied to their income needs every year, which in this case is 3% long term. This on its own told us that the client needed a portfolio that aims to at least keep up with inflation. However, I usually look to create a portfolio that can also outpace inflation up to a level that the client is comfortable with. The portfolio that I created for them and that this plan case is based on had a potential of 5% long-term after fees, but has currently actually exceeded that on the short term. Okay. So you know, when I am performing these exercises to the base case, each of them is performed on the original base case / current retirement plan that the client has when we first met. So every test you will see will always start with the original base case and will show the impact of the particular stressors being used after it is applied. Here's a situation where a market correction is applied to the base case, and it's applied on assumptions related to the various types of portfolio allocations and averages related to how they have performed historically in down markets, meaning it's based on the current type of portfolio they have. As you can see, this conservative portfolio could be down around 20%, taking it from roughly 531K to 434K in a down bond and or fixed income market. Next, we applied the market correction stressor to the new portfolio we created. And even though it's down by roughly 40%, the total assets at life expectancy are still over $200,000 more than they would have been. Here, we check to see if the base case can still be successful if their total Social Security income were to be cut by 22% in 2034. So, even though the assets have reduced from 531K to 438K, the income floor of the plan is still 100%. So even though this will have a negative impact, it will not affect the success of the plan in the end. Next, we check to see how the estate size with the new recommended portfolio in it is affected by the 22% cut in Social Security as well. Again, even though the assets have reduced from 1.17 million to 1.03 million, and the income for the plan is still 100%, the overall assets are up from 438K to 1.03 million. So it is clear that this new portfolio has the ability to well outperform the original base case. Now, the next thing we will check to see is if there can be improved estate growth by changing the account harvesting pattern or doing some Roth conversion. In this case, I checked for all of the Roth conversion opportunities, and none of them bared fruit. This was probably because of the age of the clients. The closer people get the required minimum distributions, which currently start at age 72, the less opportunity there is. However, we were able to determine that if the assets were harvested or spent in a very specific order, then the estate would be able to increase in size from $531,000 to $570,000 when it's all said and done, meaning that this strategy would definitely be worth implementing. Now, since Bob and Jane have a very conservative risk tolerance level, we decided to check if a fixed income annuity, although this was 4 or 5 years ago, today I might instead consider what is called a MIGA, or a multi-year guaranteed annuity, instead of a FIA, because today's rates have driven their guaranteed returns to over 5%. So we do this to create a principally protected bond alternative for Bob. Could be used for the improved conservative estate growth over time. For Bob and Jane. As you can see, it is estimated to increase their estate size from 530,000 to 31,000 to 644,000 over their lifetime. It also could help to reduce the downside potential from a down market, which we saw was roughly 40%, to a percentage much more comfortable for them, which would again make this solution a viable consideration for their plan. After seeing this, it only made sense to check to see if the same thing was possible for a portion of Jane's assets. We found that the estimated estate size grew from $644,251 to $767,664. Excuse me. After adding an FIA for Jane as well, which then also made this a definite consideration for their plan. Next, we decided to see what the impact on their estate would be if each of them were to die early. We will start with Bob because he's older and because men have a shorter life expectancy than women do. Okay, so here's what things look like if Bob were to die at age 73 in 10 months. Remember, he was age 70 when we did this. As you can see, Bob dying early would have a seriously negative effect on their estate size moving forward, taking it from 531,563 to 231,335, which is less than half of what it would have been. So to counter this, we theoretically added a GUL life insurance policy to the plan. Let's see how that worked out. Well, from adding a 200K guaranteed universal life insurance policy, otherwise known as a GUL, remember, This is the stripped out permanent cash value policy that only holds enough cash in it to keep the death benefit in force. You can see that it improves their estate value in growth from $234,335 to $516,938 if Bob were to die early. With death, which definitely should also be a viable consideration for their new plan. Of course, after seeing this, we then checked for the same situation with Jane. Here's what we discovered. The value of their estate would be if Jane dies early, which in this case would be at age 71 and 3 months. In this case, their estate size over their lifetime would be reduced from $531,563 to $402,403. So we decided to see if a second GUL policy would help to counter this as well. Again, if we added another 200K GUL life insurance policy on Jane, it would have improved the estate size from $402,403 to $648,143, making this solution too a viable consideration. Next, we'll check to see how major long-term care event with each of them would affect the plan. As you can see, if Bob were to incur a major long-term care event that cost them around $8,000 a month, which is roughly what it costs annually today, over a 4-year period, their estate would reduce drastically, going from $531,000 to $217,000. So now let's take a look to see what kind of impact an asset-based long-term policy would have to counter this. Whoa, as you can see, by adding an asset-based joint long-term care policy to Bob and Jane's plan, it could have massively positive effect on their estate size, not only countering the full loss, but actually helping it to almost double within their life expectancy, taking their estate from roughly $217,548 to $920,623, which is an additional $703.75. This is the type of impact that makes implementing this solution into a client's plan definitely worthwhile. And it's for sure what we strive for when developing an advanced retirement plan for them. So now we'll check to see the same thing with Jane. It looks as though a long-term care event with Jane would have a very similar effect on their estate as it would with Bob, taking it from $531,563 down to $217,196 over their lifetime. So now let's see how that same asset-based long-term care policy would work for her. So by adding the asset-based long-term care policy on Jane, the estate value will go from what would have been $217,000 to over $370,000, which isn't quite as impactful as it was with Bob. But I think this was because the internal rules inside the program didn't have her long-term care event occurring until she was 91 years old and then lasting for 4 years from there, which is really an additional 9 years of stress on their estate. When you consider that there was 5 extra years of income needs added to it before the long-term care event started. However, it still turned out to add an additional $153,145 to their estate, which definitely still makes it a viable consideration to implement it. Well, folks, that concludes the educational part of our workshop today. But before we jump into our 6-question quiz and our Q&A for it, I want to make a very special offer to everyone that is attending. I want to offer everyone here with us a no obligation complimentary advanced retirement plan review. And I want to take a minute to explain a little about what that entails and what you can get out of it. So this is what it entails. First, there are two ways we can actually meet to do it. The first is online using Zoom, which is almost just like how we're doing this webinar, but instead we'll both be able to see and hear each other, and it will be completely private. The second, we can meet in person at our office in Fort Washington. People actually still do that these days. You believe it? Now, the second part of it is that it's actually a two-step process. We would meet to gather all the information that I'll need to do the analysis. We would then meet a second time to go over the results of it. Finally, what you can get out of this is a clear understanding of whether it would be worth it or not for you to integrate one or more of the advanced retirement plan strategies that we discussed today, or perhaps even some other recommended adjustments if they can be of benefit to you and your current financial plan. So if you would like to take me up on this no obligation complimentary advanced retirement plan review, I will be posting in the comment box a link to a 60-minute meeting for you to do so. All you have to do is click on that link during our 6-question quiz or our Q&A session, and you will be able to schedule a time at your convenience directly on your calendar today or later, or at a later time that works for you. So if you have any questions that you would like answered before you book, you can also schedule a brief 15-minute Q&A phone call with me to do that as well. I will also be putting up a second 15-minute Q&A meeting link as well. Also, I will be leaving this Zoom meeting open for a half hour after we end it today, so you can have an extra time to be able to copy and paste any of the information that we've posted in the comment box or Q&A box. You'll have plenty of time to do that afterwards. Okay, that's it, folks. Now let's jump into our 6-question quiz and our Q&A session. I would refer to the quiz or you can answer in the put the answers of the quiz in the comment boxes for the questions. All right, let's see here. Got a good one for you. First question. I'm going to open up the chat box, also known as the comment box, and see if anybody gets any answers. Name one of the 2 alternative IRAs that are offered to people with small businesses or income that is not from employment. One of the 2 that we mentioned, IRAs. Come on, I know you wrote it. Yes, okay, so Ann Fee got that first. Sep, good one, Ann. And do me a favor, put where you want your gift card from in there too. Second question. What type of retirement accounts are tax-free when growing and upon withdrawal? What type of retirement accounts are tax-free when growing and upon withdrawal? Bob got it. Roth. Okay. Third question. By the way, Paul and Ann got it as well. What type of life insurance is it that saves cash inside of it and that can accrue interest and potentially last for your entire life? Bob got it. Whole life. All right. Number 4. Ian got it too. Number 3. Number 4. Name one of the 3 most commonly used annuities today. One of the 3 most commonly used annuities. Angie got it. Where do you want that gift card from, Angie? I know where Bob wants it from. Paul got it. Bob got it. Amazon, you got it, Angie. Okay, 5th question. What are the 2 main types of long-term care insurance that people have to choose from today? The 2 main types. Ooh, Bob was quick to the trigger on that. Bob got that one. All right. Final question. Which type of long-term care insurance is mainly purchased with either a lump sum payment or through a schedule of 5, 10, or 20-year payments? I've got that. Cleaning up as usual, Bob. Great job, everybody. Great job. All right, so now we're going to jump into some questions. I have like 3 or 4 that came through the email, but if anybody has any that want to put on the in this chat box or Q&A box, throw them out. I'm ready. Hold on. Okay, so let's start with the ones that were used that were emailed. First question. Which of these strategies that you have discussed do you think is the most important? That's a good one. Most important. Well, of course, I think they're all important. But I guess if I had to put them in an order of importance, I'd say first would be portfolio design to make sure it meets risk tolerance of especially people's situation, but with the potential to outperform or outpace inflation. That's one. The second, I think, is good tax mitigation strategy. And the next one, or I can think about the top of my head right now, I actually several things do, but I think the next and one is to have a good income and asset protection strategy. I think they're the 3 things that are most important. All right, next question. What percentage of your savings should go into a Roth type account? This is a good one. I like this. I'd say enough to draw off all retirement-based one-time expenses. What do I mean by that? So, one of the biggest things that causes taxable incidents for people in retirement is when they need lump sums of money for things like a new roof, a new car, things like that. So I think you got to anticipate in advance what they're going to be, and you should have enough Roth money to be able to pay for those types of things, at least for the rest of your life. There are some advisors that think you should have it for all your withdrawals. and be tax-free on everything. And I think that depending on how, eager you are to be have your taxes low, I think that's a great strategy. But at very least, I would say enough to draw off all retirement based one-time expenses. Third question. I heard that annuities are a bad investment. Is that true? Well, I don't believe there's any bad investments. I just think all of them are situational. And you've got to be able to basically, discern when to use them or not. But to me, it depends on the client situation and on whether they are more defensive or offensive in their attitude towards their assets. Because annuities are conservative in terms of growth, and they have rules that can restrict them. So you can't move them around very easily. But if a person's really defensive and wants to make sure they're protecting their money, the principal's protected, and it has a chance for a return that's higher than usually any CDs or anything like that. Especially if it's one of these guaranteed MIGA, they're called today. I mean, I just got a thing in my email today. There are MIGAs, multi-year guaranteed annuities that are paying out 5.6% now, guaranteed. And that can be for anywhere from 3 to 4, 5, anywhere from 3 to 7 years, somewhere in that. Usually I like 5 years for them. All right, final question. In order to cover why would anyone ever consider life insurance in retirement if their assets are more than what final expense costs are? Well, there's actually several things that I think I think about using it. The first is to replace the income of a loss of the lower Social Security when the first spouse passes. Second is in order to cover inheritance taxes incurred by heirs. And the third is to replace a taxable asset with a tax-free asset. So someone has, $1 million, and they think they're going to spend 700,000 of it, and they're going to leave 300 to their heirs. They might actually consider spending that 300,000, which is going to be taxed to their heirs, on a life insurance policy that's going to provide 300,000 of tax-free assets to their heirs, depending on what the cost is. All right, folks. Well, that's wrapping that up. So, that concludes our workshop for today. I just want to thank everyone who attended for being the type of people that care enough about themselves and their family to spend their precious time learning about this important topic. I truly commend you guys for that. I want to remind you that if you have any questions related to this topic that we covered today, or our offering of the complimentary no obligation advanced retirement plan review, or if we did not answer your question in the Q&A or comment boxes, or you wanted to discuss anything else for that matter, again, you can click on either the link for a complimentary 60-minute Zoom meeting or 15-minute Q&A meeting with me to do so. These links will allow you to schedule it for a time that's most convenient. I have not put the links up. I'm going to put them up as soon as we finish. Well, that's all for today, folks. I'm Brian Dougherty of PLC Financial Solutions, located in Fort Washington, in the Fort Washington, PA area. Plus, you can reach us at either 215-804-9708 by phone or at info@plc.com, or to make it even easier, just go to our website at plcfs.com, and all of our information is always there. Also, please mark Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. on your calendar for our next webinar. Our topic next month will be understanding long-term care and how it may apply to you. Plus, we are having a special guest on it with us named Bailey Hornsby from One America Life Insurance Company. He is an expert in asset-based long-term care and also my representative. Remember, we do them on the last Tuesday of every month. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you then. Good night, folks.